I can't sleep anymore. Not because I'm old, but because I finally realized what I did to myself. I'm 81 years old, and if someone offered me a trade right now, every dollar I saved, every backup plan I made, every just in case I ever prepared for, in exchange for just one night of peace I lost worrying, I'd take it without hesitation. People used to call me prepared, responsible, the woman who always had an answer for what if. I call it something else now. I call it absent, because that's what I was, absent. For 60 years I was physically present at birthdays, vacations, dinners, but mentally, I was somewhere else, fighting wars that didn't exist yet, preparing for disasters that never came. I remember my daughter's college acceptance dinner. Everyone was laughing. My husband ordered champagne, and I excused myself to the bathroom. I sat on the toilet lid with my calculator, adding up 4 years of tuition, crying because what if the economy crashes? She never knew. I came back to the table with a smile that wasn't real. I did that for 60 years, smiled on the outside, drowned on the inside. You know what I learned? Anxiety didn't save me from anything. It just made sure I suffered twice, once in my imagination and once in reality. It started when I was 21. My father came home early from the factory, middle of a Tuesday. That's how I knew something was wrong. He never came home early. He sat at the kitchen table, didn't say a word, just sat there. The factory closed. No warning, no severance. 30 years of work gone. I watched my mother that night. She made coffee at 8 p.m. because she couldn't sleep. Then she reheated the same pot at 10 and midnight and 2 in the morning. Not because she wanted coffee, because making a fresh pot felt wasteful. I remember the smell, burnt, bitter. It filled the whole house. And my father, this man who used to whistle while he fixed things, who hummed in the shower, he just went silent. For months, I didn't hear him make a single sound that wasn't necessary. No humming, no whistling, no laughter, just quiet. That's when I learned the lesson. Never be caught off guard. Always expect the worst. It felt like armor. It felt like I was finally in control. God, I was stupid. In my 30s, I got the job I wanted. Accounting firm, good pay, benefits. I should have been proud. Instead, I spent every single day terrified they'd realize they made a mistake hiring me. I showed up 45 minutes early, stayed 2 hours late, checked my work 4, 5, 6 times. My boss called it dedication. I was running from a ghost. At night, I'd lie awake creating spreadsheets in my mind, ways they could fire me, reasons they could let me go, scenarios where I'd end up like my father, silent, humiliated, erased. It never happened, but I lived like it was happening every day. My 40s were worse. My daughter, brilliant, beautiful girl, got accepted to college, full ride, scholarship. We went out to celebrate. Italian restaurant. My husband ordered champagne. My daughter was glowing. And I excused myself. Told them I needed the restroom. I locked the door, sat on that toilet, and pulled out my calculator. I added up 4 years of expenses: books, travel, emergency funds. What if she gets sick? What if the scholarship gets revoked? What if... I cried in that bathroom for 20 minutes while my family celebrated without me. When I came back, my daughter asked if I was okay. I smiled. I lied. I said, "Just happy tears, sweetheart." She believed me. The trip to Italy. God, the trip to Italy. We'd talked about it for 20 years. My husband surprised me for our 30th anniversary. Flights, hotels, everything planned. I should have been ecstatic. Instead, I made a list. Flight delays, lost luggage, pickpockets, food poisoning, terrorist attacks, earthquakes, getting lost, getting scammed, getting hurt. 27 things that could go wrong. I brought the list with me in my purse. I checked it every day. We stood in front of the Colosseum. 2,000 years of history. My husband had tears in his eyes. He said, "Isn't this beautiful?" And I was thinking about whether our travel insurance covered medical evacuation. I don't remember the Colosseum. I remember my fear. That's what I did for 60 years. I turned every moment of joy into a disaster I was preparing for. I thought worry was love. I thought anxiety was wisdom. I thought if I imagined every disaster, I could prevent it. But the disasters I feared, they never came. 2 years ago, my husband had a stroke. Not a car accident. I'd worried about that for 40 years. Not cancer. I'd made him get screenings every 6 months. Not a fall. Not a heart attack during one of our walks. Not any of the 1,000 things I'd stayed awake imagining. A stroke. Quick. Clean. No warning. He was reading the newspaper. Said he felt dizzy. And then he was gone before the ambulance arrived. At the funeral, someone came up to me. I don't even remember who. They put their hand on my shoulder and said, "He lived such a full life." And I stood there in my black dress, surrounded by flowers I didn't pick, listening to stories about a man I'd been married to for 53 years. And I realized he did live a full life. I didn't. I went home that night. Couldn't sleep. Nothing new there. So I sat in this chair and opened our photo albums. 50 years of pictures. Birthdays, vacations, graduations, holidays. And you know what I saw in every single one? My face. Tight jaw, forced smile, eyes that were never fully there. Even in the good moments, especially in the good moments, I looked like I was bracing for impact. My daughter blowing out birthday candles. Me gripping the table edge. My son's wedding. Me scanning the room like something was about to collapse. That trip to Italy. My husband with his arm around me, grinning like a kid. And me? I looked terrified. I found this the next day. My worry journal. I kept it for 50 years. Every day I'd write down what could go wrong. What if I lose my job? What if the kids get in an accident? What if we run out of money? What if the plane crashes? What if he leaves me? What if they hate me? What if... I went through the whole thing. 50 years of disasters. You know how many actually happened? One. The one I never worried about. The one I couldn't prepare for. The stroke. My kids are alive, healthy, thriving. I never lost the house. I have more money than I'll ever spend. I was never abandoned. I was surrounded by people who loved me. But I couldn't feel it because I was always waiting for the disaster, waiting for the other shoe to drop, waiting for life to feel safe enough to actually live. It never did. And now I'm sitting in this empty house, 81 years old, surrounded by everything I was afraid of losing. And I realize the only thing I actually lost was my life. I didn't lose it to tragedy. I lost it to the fear of tragedy. I lost it to imaginary disasters. If you're young enough to change this, please listen to me. You think you're protecting yourself. You're not. You're just shrinking. I see you, the ones who optimize everything, who have backup plans for your backup plans, who lie awake at 3 a.m. running through scenarios that haven't happened yet. You think it's responsibility. It's not. It's fear wearing a disguise. Here's what I need you to understand. Worry is not preparation. Worry is just suffering twice. Once for something that might never happen, and again if it actually does. Your mind will always find something to fear. That's its job. It's trying to keep you safe. But your job is to live anyway. The tragedy isn't the bad things that happen. We all face bad things. That's life. The tragedy is the good things you missed because you were too terrified to be present for them. My daughter didn't need me to have every answer. She needed me to be there, really there, not just physically standing in the room while my mind fought invisible wars. You want to know what I'd tell my 21-year-old self? The disasters you're preparing for, most of them never come. And the ones that do, you'll handle them. Not because you worried about them, but because you're stronger than you think. Mistakes are cheaper than regret. Peace isn't the absence of danger. It's the decision to stop fighting battles that don't exist yet. I'm 81 years old, and I would trade every penny I saved, every backup plan I made, every what if I ever asked, for one afternoon where I wasn't afraid. Just one. The only disaster that's guaranteed is spending your whole life preparing to live instead of actually living. If you're sitting there right now, heart racing, mind spinning, worrying about tomorrow, next week, next year, stop. Breathe. Whatever you're afraid of losing, you can't protect it by suffering in advance. Don't wait until you're sitting where I am to realize someday never comes. please don't waste your someday. Before you go, I want you to do something for me. Not for the algorithm, not for this channel, for you. Right now, wherever you are, I want you to write down one thing, just one. What's the thing you're stressing about today that probably won't matter in 5 years? Write it in the comments below, not because I need to know, but because you need to see it. You need to see it written out, outside of your head, where it's smaller, where it can't control you anymore. And if you know someone who's drowning in what-ifs, someone who's always worried, always preparing, always afraid, send this to them, not as judgment, but as permission. Permission to stop, permission to breathe. I waited 60 years to learn this lesson. You don't have to. Let it go. Together. Right now. I'll be reading every single comment because at 81, I finally have time to be present.